With everything that's going on in the world over the last couple of months, it's given us all a little bit more free time. So for me, that meant getting back into iRacing, because if you watch my channel for years, you'll know that I've dabbled in iRacing now and again. I've never been particularly good, but nonetheless, I was going to give it a proper amount of time this time and actually get into it. So this is kind of my first week back on iRacing in this video. We're starting off with the trusty street stocks. It's basically just oval racing, nothing particularly special, slow NASCAR style cars, and you basically just got to try and not crash. And this is the rookie series, so that's hard because everyone loves crashing. So this is my first incident here. So the 4 goes to the inside, and I think I started to come down because I thought he was going to come down, but he didn't, if that makes any sense. I thought he was going to start moving down, and then we were going to run side by side through the corner. It didn't work out here. He didn't move down as much as I thought, and he slightly tagged me here, but thankfully I think everyone got away with that. I just got nudged down a bit. I lost a lot of momentum. The number 1 car just about manages to poke his nose down the inside, and I eventually will lose this position. I'm not going to lie, iRacing street stocks is very, very hazardous. So much goes on. I was expecting contact, and I think this was one of my first races back. So this is definitely the first one back I wanted to show you, because a lot of the time it's just crashes on lap 1, even if it's nothing of your doing. Now, I'm in the black number 2 car. I don't know whether I pointed that out, but basically I'm being pushed along by the 4 car here. He's sort of being my buddy at this point. He's sort of giving me the push down the straights, which is kind of what you want in these cars, especially when you're running side by side like we're doing here. You want to be on the inside line really on the first half of the race. The second half of the race, the outside line does start to get good if you've got a pushing partner. Now back inside the car here, I've dropped down to 4th, and we've sort of switched around positions here, and we're now the ones going to be pushing the number 4 car. And I think here he might got a little bit annoyed with me, so I sort of hit him a little bit as we went into the turn, and I backed off quite significantly. You can see there I lost the position to the number 6 car, which came through on the inside. Now, this first week was really just sort of getting the rust off, because I was struggling early on really badly, just with every car I drove. And I've got the Fanatec CSL Elite wheel, which I'm still learning, because I've hardly driven in it since I got it towards the end of last year, so I'm still learning about everything, and it took a bit of time. So the number 4 car gets bumped here, and I sort of go 3 wide here. Not the most sensible move in the world. I think there was slight contact on the outside, and I think that black car on the outside sort of slightly pushed me into the car on the inside. So that ended up with us ended up back in second position, which is obviously good for us, but a double contact isn't good, especially when you want to be making friends really in this. You don't want to be making enemies in street stock, because it's so easy to get turned around and your race to be ruined that quickly. Nonetheless, it's been a bit of a topsy-turvy race. After starting on pole, my first pole back, I think I'd done about 2, maybe 3 races before this. I was quite happy with that, but then I get turned around here, and somehow I keep it going in a straight line. The number 8 car isn't so lucky. He's the one that's collected when I'm sort of spun across the track here. But let's do this in slow-mo. I can't see this being anyone but the 4's fault there. I'm already coming down, and then he just sort of turns across my back bumper, spins me round. I hit the 8 car. I get quite substantial damage here. It's costing me about 1/4 of a second, 1/3 of a second per lap, so that's quite a lot in NASCAR. But you see there's smoke ahead. I keep my foot pinned to the floor. It's what you really need to do in street stock when something like that happens in front of you, because you don't want to lift, because that really can cause an accident behind you as well. And there's the 4 car that spun me around, but unfortunately that isn't for the lead of the race. The lead of the race is that car just in front, and this all happened on the last lap of the race here. So I had a really topsy-turvy race here, but this was the sort of first decent result I got. I mean, I don't really call second in street stocks really a great result, but I guess it's a starting point to start to get back from being really bad. So next up I wanted to try some road racing, and I decided to get into the Skip Barber, one of my favourite cars. It's a very tough car to drive, but it was a really nice combination here for me at least. I love this Phillip Island track, I love the car, even though it is definitely tricky. I hadn't got the right setup, especially at this stage. I was really struggling. So I think I qualified 5th, which wasn't too bad. But when you consider about, I think 5 or 6 people didn't bother qualifying, it doesn't mean too much. I was sort of mid-pack of people that qualified. So first lap of this race, not doing too badly here, but I wash out a bit wide here, and the white and red car goes down the inside of me and gets past. I'm the blue and white car we're focusing on here. That is me. I do have trading paints on, and I do actually have a decent livery for I think all of these cars, but I obviously didn't record that or turn that on when I was recording it. But a mistake on the first lap of the race is definitely not what you want, and especially when the field is so bunched up like it is here. I just lost so many positions. I think I got a wheel on the grass on the outside, braked a bit too late, and it was a bit of a calamity there on the first lap of the race, and I think I'm dropped down to sort of 12th or 13th position at this point. So a couple of laps in, there's starting to be carnage in front. 2 cars have been collected, and somehow I get through this. I mean, I guess there was some latency going on there or something that caused me not to get more damage, but I definitely just ran into that car, and in real life my car would have been totaled. But I gained 3 positions and lost 4, so out of all that I still lose a position. But I'm going to try and keep my nose down the inside here, and this black car on the outside goes a tad wide, so I get down the inside and back up a position. So after all of that, I get back to the same position I started that ordeal, but still I had, I think, a tiny bit of damage to my front wing possibly, but thankfully something to do with the latency made sure I didn't get any worse damage. So I get slightly mugged here. I just left the door wide open, and the red and blue car just dives down the inside and gets the position done on me. So that was a bit disappointing to lose a position, because I felt like my pace was decent, especially for the split I was in, and with the little amount of practice I had. I mean, I think I'd only had about 10 laps of practice, so that's why mistakes like these were happening all too often. It's just because I didn't understand the car yet. I was really struggling, so at that point I basically just turned in a tad too early. I was expecting more understeer than I got, which meant that I slightly tapped that guy in front's wheel, and that ended up with me being thrown up in the air and losing a position. And then, well, there we are, 2 red cars in front of me make contact once again, and that's a position, or a couple of positions gained again. Now side by side once again between myself and this black car. So, you know, he hung it around the outside, which is completely fair play, and there's a couple of cars off there. There's a red car with 3 wheels on its wagon in front, so I'm going to gain a couple of positions here, but I did lose one into turn 1. So now we're coming up to get past the car that's been caught up in all this ordeal, and hopefully he's a bit slow or damaged at this point, so hopefully we can get past him. So I've been a bit hot-headed in this race and taking too many risks, so this time I slot in behind and just try and take a normal racing line and sort of switch back, and that works out for me. So I go side by side with this Italian coloured car as we go side by side to the next corner, but I take my wider line, obviously further distance around the corner, but the better speed on exit make sure that I get past the Italian coloured car. So nonetheless, a couple of laps later, we're starting to sort of really put a charge on here and start to catch people, and trying to go around the outside here. A slight lockup of the front right wheel. I feel like this is just a lot of rookie errors that I still need to iron out, and you know, I'm very new to getting back into this car and back into this game, and on a road course it was a place that I always really struggled, so there's a lot to learn, and I totally understand that, and hopefully this is just an example of where I am right now, and hopefully I can just keep learning and get better in the future. So I make, I'd say, a decent enough move down the inside here, but then there's contact and I get spun around. Some problems with the connection there, I think, was the cause of that, and I'm not going to be annoyed here, because let's be perfectly honest, I got involved with an accident early on, so I made this nice move. I'd say it's pretty decent, but then I think he was understeering and I was sort of oversteering, and my car was pitching back towards the apex a little bit, and I guess just a little bit of connection issues there unfortunately meant that we contacted and I spun around. But I'm not mad. It was an interesting race. I had some good battles, and really allowed me to learn a lot about these cars in a race situation. That meant a couple of races later, hopefully I'll be in a better position, if we were in a good position here, to possibly get a podium or something like that. So skip ahead either to the next race I did or a couple of races after. I think it was definitely the next Skip Barber race I did. So away we go, and I get a decent start there. The green car in front of me just doesn't move at all, so I started in 6th position there, and I move up to 5th position straight away, so that's a nice start. And into turn 1, obviously you can gain some positions here if you're ballsy, so I go around the outside, gain a position there straight away, just trying to hang an hour out there, and it worked out quite well. So that's up into 4th position, starting from 6th. I'll take that. That's a decent enough start, and of course it's a track where you can overtake, so I'm fully expecting faster cars to come flying back past me here, but still, I wasn't so good on the start last time. A bit timid. This time a little bit more aggressive, and that's worked out for me, but I need to make sure that I tone down the aggression in other stages of the race. As there's contact in front, I nearly lock up and smash into them myself, but thankfully I don't. I get past those two guys, and I'm up into 2nd position on the first lap of this race. Now, this is what was happening behind me. I shared this on Twitter the other day as well. This red car's on a rampage. He takes out that teal coloured car, and then he just reverses into the middle of the track and takes out the poor guy in the black car as well. Oh dear. Nonetheless, back to me, and I think we're a couple of laps into this race now, and I think it's pretty clear. I mean, I qualified 6th place on the grid. The car that's in front of me qualified on pole position. Pretty evident what's going to happen. He's going to pull away from me. I'm happy that I wasn't losing too much ground here, and I was getting a slight slipstream effect from him. I was thankful of that, but I think the way I set up my car, it was actually quite good through the high speed corners, but not so good in the straight, and that was illustrated here a couple of laps later when I was overtaken for 2nd position. I didn't even bother defending it, because I thought, if I want to try and win this race, which obviously I do, I'm not going to win it by just on pure pace. I need to try and do some tactics here. So what my thought was is let this guy behind me, who's evidently faster, let him through, and maybe try and follow him and try and catch up to the leader, stay in his slipstream. If I'm not that much slower than him, that's a possibility. So that was my plan here. I didn't fight him, I let him through in a way, and I had my fingers crossed that I was going to catch up, but it didn't quite work out that way. So as you can see, a few laps down the line, I have well and truly lost them. I think the pure pace wasn't too bad, but the consistency wasn't quite there, unfortunately. So there we are, there's another overtake. I think this guy in the number 9 sort of weird yellowy green car, he started from the back of the grid. He didn't qualify, so in my opinion, this guy here is the fastest guy in this race. And if we look to them a couple of laps further down the line, you can see he's caught them. So he's evidently quick, and I'd lost about 3 seconds to them. So he's caught up to that quite quickly, and you can see I'm not that far behind. So they've started to battle away. I've started to get it more consistent once this guy got past me, and I'm feeling pretty good right here. So you can see they're battling away, and we go back on board with myself live. We can see in front here, the green and yellow car goes for a spin on the outside. The sort of purple and white car goes for a spin on the inside, and I'm back into 2nd position. So this is a really weird race here. I don't have quite the pace, but it's mainly the consistency that was letting me down early on, and I think possibly a setup that wasn't particularly suited to this track. So I was happy here, 2nd position. We're coming to lap a couple of cars as well. There's a car with 3 wheels spinning off on the outside, which we get past quite easily, and now the leader's been slightly held up here by this 2nd lapped car, so we're going to try and get past him with relative ease here. So he's slid wide. I think he backed off the throttle here, which I really appreciate. It's nice to come across lapped cars that get out the way like that, and I try and do my best to do that in practice lobbies as well, just get out the way of the faster cars, obviously trying to learn at the same time. But not gonna lie, I was quite happy with myself. I think this was relatively soon after that we've really caught up to the leader. He's making some mistakes. I'm not sure what's happening, but either I'm slightly getting quicker in this race, maybe I'm being spurred on to catch up to him, because I saw at this point there's a real chance I could win this race. So I'm right up behind him here. This is for 1st position in this race, and considering I'm so inexperienced in these Skip Barber cars and on iRacing, this is only a couple of races back, as I mentioned, I was surprised to be in this situation, because I knew my raw pace wasn't there, but I guess keeping it clean sometimes does work out for me. So nonetheless, he gets back past me down the inside. I wasn't going to go too crazy with this one. I realised that I was in a very fortunate position here, so I wanted to try and stay here, but at the same time I realised the green and yellow guy just behind me, is very quick, and he's inherently going to catch up to us soon. So that was the case, and you can see he's right onto the back of me here. Now, I think this is a 14-lap race, so this is lap 13 here, and we're going to be going on to the last lap of this race here, and he's right over the back of me. I think my slight setup disadvantage is really going to hinder me here. There's the white flag. In America, that means 1 lap to go, so he's flying past me here. He didn't really even have my slipstream for much, but he goes past me kind of like I'm not there. But I brave it out around the outside. I really put my trust in my setup there and took more speed through turn 1 than I think I've ever done before, and somehow hold second position round the outside. That was quite bold for me. I wouldn't normally do something like that early on into learning a car, so I was quite happy with myself here. But he gets the run on me as I sort of understeer a bit wide, and we go side by side through the kink here, and as we go through here back on board with myself, he slightly edges ahead, but on the brakes I just about get him. But the leader makes another mistake, I think slightly locking up his brakes, and I go right underneath his rear wing there and have to lift off the throttle ever so slightly, which means that round my outside becomes the yellow and green car once again. What a thrilling final lap of this race. I can't believe I'm involved in such a battle so early on. Getting back into iRacing, I wouldn't have expected this at all. So I know at this point only a couple of opportunities to take the lead of this race and win it, so I'm going to try my best to do so. I'm going to take more speed through here, put extra commitment. He's getting a little bit loose around the outside here, so what I'm going to do is a bit of a switch back. So from the outside to the inside, brakes down the inside, kind of square off the corner unintentionally, and get my position into the lead of this race. Now we're going to follow this through and watch a replay in a minute of what happened here, but I couldn't quite believe the position I was in right here. As we can see round the last sort of corner here, he's trying to go round the outside of me, but it's not going to work out right now. But he's going to be able to tuck into the slipstream and also get a bit more speed than me down the straight, because he's just got a better setup than me. So up to the checkered flag, away we go. Oh, it's so close. But I can reveal to you, I mean, it's a crash after the start finish line, but that doesn't matter. I can reveal to you I won by less than 0.1 of a second. It was quite incredible. So let's watch this back. So firstly, let's see what happened in sort of this hairpin downward part. So I'm down the inside. I feel like fair play. He could have just turned in and wiped me out there, but he didn't. I think he realised at that point he'd left the gap open, and I was there. He didn't want to cause an accident, so massive fair play to the teal and white coloured car there. He could have caused an accident but didn't. So let's analyse what happens here. So at this point my hands are sweating. I'm really nervous. So I was just trying to keep the car in a straight line, and the force feedback was sort of bumping the car all over the place here. So I was trying to keep the car in a straight line. I saw him in my right hand mirror, so I think I moved slightly to the right hand side here to try and cover him off, but it wasn't drastic. And somehow I kept the lead. And then after the start finish line, fair play, the teal and white car was trying to get past. I think he slightly bumped into my rear tyre, and that caused an accident, but it was over the start finish line. That's how close it was. I mean, look how incredible that is. Wow, I won't ever really forget this race. It was really incredible, and it's great that iRacing can produce such memories like this. But nonetheless, I hope you enjoyed my first week back on iRacing, some memorable racing, and I managed to get a win, so I was quite happy with that. Definitely didn't expect that, but yeah, fair play to these guys around me here. I made some sort of amateur mistakes in this race for sure, but you know, they weren't sort of punishing me for it. They weren't sort of just driving into me. I mean, I wasn't really making sort of contact like I was in the previous race you saw. I sort of started to iron that out with a bit more practice and a slightly better setup. But nonetheless, still they could have obviously been more aggressive with me on that last lap, and I could have been involved in an accident before the start finish line, and you know, I guess that would have been fair play. He could have turned into me in that sort of downwards hairpin kind of thing, and he didn't. So yeah, fair play to him. I really appreciate the clean racing, and it is what it is. I guess sometimes I learned a lot in that first race, and we got there eventually, even though the pace wasn't there. I guess right place, right time, and I managed to get it done. So thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. There'll be more videos coming up soon, and I'm excited to show you what's coming. But yeah, there's going to be a nice variety coming up soon, and I hope you'll join me on that. So thank you for watching. I'll see you around soon. Stay safe. It's been Alex Mad here. Goodbye.